Excuse me. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. You are tuning into a late afternoon edition. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, some folks said, Jimmy, you should go back and do a midday Java. And so we're going to treat this as a midday Java. It will be on Wednesdays, coming soon, but we're going to kick it off. And on a thankful Thursday midday Java, we have the opportunity this afternoon to speak with our Senator Elizabeth Warren. And so she is in, and we're going to make the best use of her time. But as I always do, Senator, I have to greet you and say, I almost said good morning, but good afternoon. And Senator, you know, you are Mayor Wu, Congresswoman Presley, Governor Healy, AG Campbell, awesome that it's women leading in this space. But I ask, how are you doing? Because there's a lot going on in the world right now, and you're advocating for things in DC. And so how are you doing, Senator Warren?
Oh, Jimmy, you're the best. You always ask the right question, and it's hard right now. It's genuinely, truly hard. And I was in this fight all the way. Obviously, I'm disappointed about how it came out with Donald Trump, and that we also lost control of the House and the Senate. But now that he's been sworn in, I mean, we're only on day 4. And here's a guy who's out there. He's issued executive orders, that he's just one after another after another. He's gone back to the 1960s to revoke an executive order from Lyndon B. Johnson that said that these big corporations that want to do business with the government are not allowed to discriminate. And one of Donald Trump's first executive orders is to get rid of that, to reel that back in, and to say, yep, you big companies can come do business with the federal government. If you discriminate, that's fine with us. And I think of this in the context, he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico. He says he's going to take back the Panama Canal. Families need help on grocery prices. Families need help on the cost of housing, what it costs to rent, what it costs to buy. Families need help on childcare. Families need help in the healthcare system. There's a lot we could be doing. But instead, where Donald Trump wants to take this country is often these totally awful directions, because he doesn't really have any ideas to help out families.
Senator, you talk about the food prices. I literally just put a tweet up being a little snarky. And at the end of it, I said, so how are those egg prices?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I want to come back a little bit. You jumped right into the work. So you said it's hard. That tells us a little bit about how you're doing. And so we'll let you get a pass with the hard, though it doesn't really answer how you're doing. But a couple of questions, Senator, I want to jump right in because I know your time is valuable. Let me just ask, did you attend the inauguration, and why or why not?
I did.
You did?
I did. I've gone to every inauguration since I was elected by the people of Massachusetts. And look, people make different decisions. I have zero criticism of anybody else on whatever they decide. But for me, it's about you witness. I see it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And it motivates me to stay in this fight. So when you ask how I am, Jimmy, I will answer your question. I am motivated. I am in this fight. And yep, it's hard, but I'm exercising, right? Staying strong, working out with weights, because I'm not going to roll over and play dead here. I get it. We are in the minority. We just got rolled in a meeting a little while ago because the Republicans have more votes than we do in a committee. But dang it, if you don't get in the fight, I guarantee you can't win. So I'm just going to stay in it.
Yes, ma'am. And part of that fight is, I have to ask, you talk about rolled over and the Republicans, but you went to the inauguration. Mm-hmm. You saw, and probably, let's just keep it 100, Anthony Davis of the Davis System name last night, that there were big tech billionaire folks that had prime seating.
Yeah.
You were in politics. We understand seating is significant. It's something like that. You are a U.S. Senator. Were you up on the stage?
No,
So
certainly better seat than I had, or
so let me
any of the
ask you,
things.
that looked very much like an oligarchy.
Oh,
Senator.
i-
And
in,
so
in fact, Jimmy, I'll just add to it. You know, Trump has all his nominees. The person who's going to be Secretary of the Treasury, the person who's going to be Secretary, he thinks, Secretary of Defense, the person who's named to be Secretary of Education. Those people who are supposed to be running things, they had to sit behind the oligarchs. The billionaires got the primo seating. And boy, they got out there, they mugged for the camera, they looked good, and they reminded everyone that Donald Trump is trying to build a government by the billionaires, for the billionaires, of the billionaires. That's where this thing is headed. And the visual on that on Monday made it all perfectly clear.
it was perfectly clear. So, Senator, let me ask you, understanding the three branches of government, we have executive, judicial, and legislative, and essentially going back to some of the things of stacking the Supreme Court. What buffers are in place, Senator? He has the House, he's the president, he has the Supreme Court stacked with a large conservative, some of those judges, Supreme Court officials. What are you and your colleagues doing to make sure that there's some level of buffer and accountability?
So we're using every tool in the toolbox. And look, some of them, when you're on the minority side, they can still outvote you and go ahead with their plans. But you don't make it easy. You make sure that the American people get to hear. Let me give you an example right now. We're doing the nominations, Secretary of Defense. Republicans are trying to roll it on through. It's a Fox News weekend host has been named to be Secretary of Defense. And Jimmy, the evidence suggests he has a very serious drinking problem. And I understand people can have drinking problems, but you don't make them Secretary of Defense, right? Because Secretary of Defense has to be able to pick up the phone 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and be able to give advice to the president, make judgment calls. And when I say a drinking problem, I'm not talking about, a couple of drinks before dinner. I'm talking about someone, what the file shows and what people have come forward and told us is falling down drunk. It's so drunk that you stand outside the hotel and pee. So drunk that he had to be carried up to his room. So drunk that he had to stop the Uber so he could throw up. So drunk in his uniform at a strip club, and this is going to speak to everybody here who's ever been in military service, so drunk that he had to be pulled out of a strip club where he'd been getting a lap dance in his military uniform. So drunk that at an activity at a strip club, he tried to climb up on stage and dance with the strippers. So this is the guy that the Republicans just wanted to roll on through and say, we're done on this. Our job has been to ask him questions and to get out and talk about it in the press, to tweet about it, to write about it, to keep pushing. And by the way, Jimmy, I don't want to stay on this forever, but this guy not only has a drinking problem, he's also a guy who said women have no business serving in combat.
Women combat every day.
You bet. You got that one right. 300,000 women have served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 9/11. That's just recent. That's just recent. Just those numbers. Right now, about 1 out of every 5 active duty military is a woman. We can't run our military if we don't have women who are signing up and saying, I want to be part of this. And I don't know who signs up for a guy who disrespects women.
Senator, thank you for naming that, you will use every tool in the toolbox. One of the questions that we have here is, and I didn't want to get into too much specifics. I got 2 more questions and then we have a few minutes before we let you go. But the 14th Amendment, birth citizenship rights. Do you, and I'm just going to ask you this, you get it, Senator, that this man is a performer.
Yes.
Theatrics, and they like me, and he bases his dealings based on whether people like him or not. What can he is this one just a shock and awe, or can this get across the line? Is he able to disrupt the 14th Amendment?
No.
No.
The Constitution is clear on this. It could not be clearer. The words are there, and the President of the United States does not have a magic wand where he gets to go in and sprinkle dust over the Constitution and rewrite it. If he wants to amend the Constitution, take a cut at it, baby. But no, he does not have the power to do that, and we will fight him every inch of the way on that. We got a Constitution to back us up.
Absolutely. When you said, he doesn't have a magic wand, in the last few days, he with via these EOs and executive orders, he's acting like he does.
Yeah.
Senator, here in your district, and, I think you understand the importance of being present here in the state, in your district. And, there's a balance of understanding you have to be in DC, but then also, understanding here in the district. And so can I ask what it is that your office here locally and your local staff, what are they doing to support our migrant or immigrant brothers and sisters? And also, Senator, there are people that are impacted that don't have a citizenship status, but their spouses do. Children, may have their parents. What locally we know what you're doing in DC with policy. What is happening locally at your office as far as resources for folks?
So it's a great question, Jimmy. And I just want to say I'm in DC. You can see kind of from behind me. This is my DC office. I want to come back. I don't want to stay here. So that's my cry. I got to stay here as long as we're voting. But our office in Boston and in Springfield, man, we're doing everything we can. We're meeting with as many people as we can, and it's both groups that advocate and trying to lift them up, make sure their voices get heard both in Washington and locally, because we think that's important. But also, Jimmy, there's the quiet, painstaking business of we're just trying to get as many people over the finish line as possible, so that their status is documented and so that they are protected. I really want to give a shout out to my staff who are working morning, noon, and night on this, and have been now actually for a long time, because we have been very worried about this. We're just trying to get as many people as much protection as we can. And Jimmy, better than anyone, there are a lot of different, maybe you have TPS, temporary protected status, maybe you have green card, maybe you have student visa, maybe you're a spouse, maybe you're in the middle of a citizenship application. We are doing everything we can to move every one of those as far forward, and also to try to tell people, here are your rights. Here's what you're entitled to. Here's where you have a right to be here. Here's what you want to say if anyone challenges you on this. So we're doing everything we can on the ground. And I also want to shout out, as always, Congresswoman Presley.
Yeah.
We work in very close sync. Senator Markey, we work in close sync. If there's something for some reason we can't handle, we try to say, can you all help? Do you all have an in? But we're just, again, it's all the tools. We are picking up every possible tool to try to help people. That's what I see is the reason I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Senator, one more question before the last question that I know you're gonna, I've been in rooms where, used to be a Sunday school teacher, and I've seen you preach. This last one I'm going to save for the very last. When you talk about, resources and whatnot, and I asked the governor this, Governor Haley that there was, and this is kind of off the cuff, but there was a sentiment, Senator, that by law, the governor was required to shelter people, our migrant brothers and sisters. But there was also a sentiment when we talk about resources, Senator, that people who are citizens, with all due, that are here, that have worked and whatnot, sometimes have fallen on bad times, don't have housing, don't have resources. Where was that balance, or how did you view and or advocate to walk and chew gum at the same time of supporting our migrant brothers and sisters? But then there's veteran Joe, there is single mom Cecilia that felt slighted.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that from those within your district?
So the way I look at it is people who are here as migrants are federal responsibility. After all, it is the federal government, not the state government, that determines who comes in, what we're doing at the borders, what the rules are, and that therefore it is the job of the federal government to provide the support that is needed for those people, whether that means housing, whether it means helping them get the work permits so they can go out and take jobs and be able to support themselves, which I think is where we should be moving people. But that is the job of the federal government. And I want to be clear, federal government really fell down in its responsibilities on that. It is the job of our Commonwealth to take care, exactly as you describe, of the people who are citizens, who've been here, and who've fallen on hard times. And again, a lot of tools to be able to do that. I love what Mayor Wu has tried to do to expand, for example, childcare availability. That's so mamas and daddies can go to work, know that their kids are safe. Exactly right. Job training. What the state legislature did on more support for community colleges. So people have an opportunity to be able to get better educated, and that helps them get better jobs. So I see this as we shouldn't be putting people in the position of competing with each other for these resources.
Yep.
We have different responsibility and frankly, different pools of money that we should be drawing from. The federal government has not done its part. State has stepped up. There's still more to do, but the state has stepped up. The federal government needs to do a lot more. And this is going to be an ongoing fight with the Trump administration.
Senator, I appreciate you, because my last question is, how do we continue to fight and resist?
We remember always that we are stronger together, and that you don't get what you don't fight for. What's going on is worth fighting for. So let's do this, Jimmy.
Absolutely. Senator, thank you. Strength your way. Hope to see you out in district soon after March, because, climate change is causing, temperatures to be very interesting. Very, very, very last thing. You mentioned Mayor Wu. She was one of your former law students.
Yep.
Anything to say to Mayor Wu publicly?
She is doing a great job, and congratulations on the new baby. I just love seeing this. She really is doing a terrific job, though.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you're an example, and she is too, that women lead and can get stuff done. With that being said, I'm going to get you off my screen before I get in trouble. Thank you, Senator, and we'll talk soon. And all the best to your team. Thank you. Folks, hopefully this was informative for you in speaking with or hearing from our senator today. And she acknowledged there's a lot more work to do. And that is definitely something I agree with. Tonight at 8 p.m., we are having a special Java After Dark with Mario Rodriguez. He's actually texting with me now. And so please come back tonight at 8 p.m. We're going to have that conversation with him. And that is it for me. Thank all of you for tuning in this afternoon. This was sort of a quick shot of Java. And we'll see you back this evening at 8 p.m. So have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you at 8. Peace.